In this video, I'll be sharing with you a requested tutorial on how to cut this stylish dress. And this dress is from Gemma Wear. So to start, here is my pattern and we are going to start by drafting the upper part, which we are going to mark the shoulder to bust, under bust and waistline. This is for the upper part of the front part of this dress. Now, I'll go ahead and mark my shoulder divided by 2. My shoulder is 7 inches divided by 2. I'll mark. Come down by 1 inch at that point. Go ahead to mark my basic neckline of 3 inches to serve as a guide, and I will connect. After I'm done marking, I'm going to find the chest line, which is the bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches, and I'll draw a straight line. After that, I'm going to place my tape and I'll go ahead to mark my shoulder divided by 2 again. Now, I'll place my ruler to connect this all the way up. After I'm done connecting, I'm going to divide what I have here into 2 equal parts and come out by ½ inch. Here at the chest line, I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4. And after I'm done marking that, I'll connect from the upper part to the midpoint where I have that ½ inch and connect it down to my bust circumference divided by 4. Now, I'm going to go ahead to mark my dart. I'll start by marking my nipple to nipple divided by 2. My nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5 inches, which I'll mark all the way, connecting from the bust to the under bust and to the waistline of my pattern. After marking this, I'm going to place my ruler and I'm going to draw out a straight line. The next step I'm going to take is to go ahead to add my dart. I'll mark a basic dart intake of ½ inch on both sides because this pattern is not a bustier pattern, and I'll come down by 1 inch and connect this to the ½ inch at the waistline of my pattern. Right now, the next step is to insert your measurement. I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4 and add any sewing allowance of your choice. Mark your under bust circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace and add your sewing allowance. Mark your waist circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace and add your sewing allowance. Now, after marking this, I'm going to go ahead to connect, drawing a straight line. Now, if you're using a bust dart technique, you're going to go ahead to mark your bust dart. I'll be explaining that later. Now, I marked about 1.5 inches above my chest line and I came up by ½ inch at the armhole. This is because I don't want my armhole to be too revealing. If not, connect from your neckline all the way to the armhole of this dress, right? And after blending out, this is what I have. So for this pattern, I'll cut this out. So just like I said, if you want to add a bust dart to your pattern, you're going to go ahead to measure the difference between your shoulder to waist in front and your shoulder to waist at the back. My waist in front is 17, while the back is 15.5. So if you deduct 15.5 from 17, will give you 1.5, so which is my bust dart. But I left this pattern this way because it's just a simple pattern. So all you have to do is to blend out your dart and place it on your fabric and cut, because if you look at the dress, actually there is not like there's a dart there. So since there's no dart, actually a dart was cut out and blended out before using it to cut the dress. Now, for the strap of this dress, you can go ahead to measure what you have from the shoulder to the neckline of your dress. Right, what I have here is like 6 inches. So we are also going to measure that of the back, and then by the time you measure it, you join it to what you have at the front. Next is to cut the back pattern. I marked my zipper allowance of 1.5 to 2 inches for the back. Then I marked the chest line the same way we got our chest line, which is our bust divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. Then I marked my shoulder to bust and my shoulder to waist at the front. Now, if you're using a bust dart technique, your shoulder to waist at the back will be shorter than that of the front, but we are leaving this pattern as a simple basic pattern. So that's why I'm just using the measurement I have at the front, also at the back. So now the next step you need to take is to go ahead to add your dart. And to add your dart, what you're going to do is to mark your nipple to nipple divided by 2. My nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5. After marking it, I'll place my ruler, draw a straight line. Now I'll mark ½ inch on both sides of my pattern, and after marking that, I'll go ahead to come down by 1 inch here from the bust, connect it all the way to the lower part of this ½ inch I marked. After marking this, the next step I'm going to take is to go ahead to insert my measurement. Mark my waist circumference divided by 4, then measure the dart intake I took out, replace. So I forgot to add the sewing allowance for the waist. Go ahead to do that. Also mark your bust circumference divided by 4 and add your sewing allowance. For this pattern, go ahead to use any sewing allowance of your choice. Go ahead also to connect, and towards the chest line of this pattern I came down by ½ inch here. Then at the other side of this chest line, I'll come up by ½ inch and I will connect because I came up by the armhole of the front. For the zipper, I'll come in by ½ inch here and I'll place my ruler, connect it all the way up. So we are trying to get rid of the zipper bulge at the back. Now I'll go ahead to cut out my pattern. While cutting out, place your tape and measure what you have here. Remember, what we have in front is 6 inches and what we now have at the back is 7. Add 6 to 7 inches to give you 13. So that is what I'll use in cutting my strap. The length of the strap coming from the front to the back is 13. I'll use. Then I'll cut out the zipper bulge, and after cutting that, I'll go ahead to draft out the. So for the skirt pattern, you need your hip circumference divided by 4 plus your sewing allowance to fold. So after folding that, go ahead to find the length of your skirt. So now let's say that the length of my skirt is 15 inches plus my sewing allowance. Add a turn up or folding allowance at the lower part of your skirt. So after this, I'll mark my waist circumference divided by 4. Now if you look at this skirt, there's no dart at the front. After marking my waist circumference divided by 4 here, what I'll do is to add my sewing allowance. Use any sewing allowance of your choice, and now I'll place my tape, measure 7 inches after my waistline. If you're a much taller person, use 8 inches, and after that I'll go ahead to mark my hip circumference divided by 4 and add my sewing allowance to it. Now measure whatever you have on the hip. Go ahead to minus 1.5 inches from it and mark. So if you want it to be 2 fitted, you can go ahead to minus 2 inches and mark at the lower part. After that, go ahead to connect your pattern. Now I'm going to go ahead to use my scissors to cut this out. So after cutting out this pattern, now you're going to use it to draft out your back. To draft out your back, you place it on another fabric and you're going to add a zipper allowance of 2 inches to 1.5 in front of it and go ahead to cut this out. Now after cutting it out, use that same front pattern and you're going to cut out another pattern. So for the front, you'll be cutting out 2 pieces, right? And I'm going to go ahead to open it up. We are going to go ahead to create that slanted effect or the wrap effect on the skirt. So I'm just going to come in by my sewing allowance here, 1.5 inches my sewing allowance. It is very important for you so that when you're drawing out the curve, it's going to align after sewing out your sewing allowance by this side. Also mark your sewing allowance on this other side. Now from here, I'll now go ahead to connect it. So go ahead to slant this down. Be careful when you're doing this, especially if you're drafting this on your skirt pattern, on your fabric. Sorry, if you're doing it on a pattern paper, you can easily go ahead to adjust. Make sure that this is exactly what you want here before cutting out. If not, you have to go ahead to readjust. After cutting, turn it to the other side and go ahead to trace out this side so that by the time you're done cutting out, you will have 2 opposite sides this way and you place it. Now if you're not okay with what you have, like I'm not okay with what I have here, if you're using a pattern paper, you can easily go ahead to correct it. But if you're drafting this on the fabric, I'm doing it this way as if I'm drafting it on the fabric, right? But if you're drafting on a pattern paper first, what you have to do is to go ahead to make sure that exactly what you cut out is what you desire or what you want for the skirt, because there won't be any room for readjustment. So after that, turn each skirt and then place it together and hold it as one piece. So by the time you sew in the sewing allowance, you'll be having like this wrap effect on the skirt.